Oh, she still ran away.
No!
I did it so softly.
Oh.
My cat hates the fan.
Yeah. If you're that'll be nominated for Cup Reference next year. I was gonna do a Cup Awards promo, but by the time this episode comes out, they won't matter.
Oh, oops.
So, if you voted in the Cup Awards, thank you. If you didn't, you suck. I'm kidding.
Boo. Abora.
Boo. Tomorrow. Abora. Anyway, hello, uglies, and welcome to The Cup, the Currently Unnamed Podcast, where we put the real and the tea in reality, and you can always come to us first to quench your thirst. I'm Logan Murphy. I say something gay, and I brought out a mug that I don't usually use very often, but I love it. It's this gorgeous, like, green, almost like bamboo mug, and then it's this gorgeous black, or no, that's not black. This gorgeous, like, burgundy brown almost. But I love the way that it's split down the middle. And in my mug here, I have some blackberry lemonade, because yes. But of
Blackberry
course,
with an I?
Yes, it was intentional. Thank you, David. I literally made it because I knew we were talking about Dragula. Mine is blackberry with a Y, but we will talk about blackberry with an I. But of course, if I was drinking anything out of anything else, it would, of course, be a cup mug. Hello. David has his meds in his cup mug, and I now also have mine in my cup. So I'm like,
That's the way to go.
Period. And you can go get your merch, including but not limited to cup mug, at lonagcreations.etsy.com. Link is in the description below. And we do ship domestically in the US and internationally. So there are no excuses. And today we're looking at the state of West Virginia. Why? I don't know.
Fair. We see you, West Virginia.
West Virginia.
West Virginia, take me home. Okay, I'm not going to
that is a good song.
Yep. Well, I'm David Healy, and I don't have a cute shirt. Oops. I forgot my line already. I don't have a cute intro, and I don't have a cute shirt. I have a monstrous shirt.
Okay, there you go. Nice save.
An evil, a maniacal shirt. I have the mother of all monsters from Dragula, the spookiest, the most, frightening, the goriest. It's J. Jolie.
Yay! Oh, yay! Oh, the most terrifying.
Maybe.
Have you seen her on? Speaking of, have you seen her on socials recently?
Mm-mm.
She's like a year plus into her transition, and she is gorgeous and beautiful. So,
yeah, you do.
And speaking of fabulous queens from Drag Race and or Dragula, water. He's drinking water. I always forget that.
It's okay. I take
I was going to say, speaking of fabulous queens from Drag Race and or Dragula, Pheromone also just came out as trans, and we love Farrah.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh, Farrah, yay!
We already knew, girl. We knew. We were waiting for you.
Okay, no. We're not going to do that here. But congratulations nonetheless. Yes. We love you, Farrah. So, we're not talking about Pheromone, we're not talking about Jade today, unfortunately. But we are talking about Dragula. It is the last competitive episode of Dragula Season 5. And the last episode for a month.
It's not a month, is it?
It's like, I think it's 3.5 weeks, if not more.
Oh, I thought it was 3.
It might be 3, and I'm just exaggerating, making it 4.
Wait, the last competitive episode?
The last competitive episode in a month. That is what I said.
Because we do have a reunion. That's right.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be competitive in a different way. So, with this cast, it'll be competitive. But we're going to talk about the Final 5 challenge, all of the things included with that. But before we do, make sure to subscribe if you have not already, because we're here we're here a lot. I can't say almost all the time right now because we're ramping down the year, but we're here a lot, giving you almost everything drag. We've got a ton of drag content coming in January, including the finale of Dragula. So make sure to subscribe because we do a lot of stuff here. And we have 2 other channels where we talk about almost all things reality TV and almost all things Eurovision. So make sure to go subscribe to those as well. But we come into this episode. Did you get I didn't get the B-movie reference in the intro of this episode. I'm sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, I don't really focus too much on that part. Like, get to the meat.
Either.
I've never loved the intros to Dragula. It's always kind of my least favorite part.
I like that this season they've done it differently, where it's like a direct address to the audience. Like, I like that style.
Oh, I did hear about this. Okay, so they described the definition of a monster.
Yes.
And my roommate was like, yeah, people on Reddit they figured out that this is like exactly what's written on Wikipedia. So they literally just read the Wikipedia definition of a monster.
That is stupid.
I mean, there was a writer's strike, so
it makes sense, you know. Sure. The Boulets really had to improvise this season with some things, but yes, we come back in. We know that Cynthia and Ork were in the Extermination last week, and because Cynthia passed out, she died. And I guess she didn't even finish the Extermination.
Yeah. Well, if you'd watched our podcast from last week.
I did, actually.
Oh.
And that's why I brought it up, because you both talked about that. So,
well,
you know what, David?
She did finish, and she wanted to do it a second time, according to the Boulets podcast.
Yeah.
But it was way more dramatic and interesting the way they showed it. So.
Oh! Oh!
I love her. I mean, I've had my issues with her, but
I've had my major issues with her. But, you know, given the fact that I don't love that she was kind of the spearhead for the JK hate train.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, though, by the end, coming around and kind of like not being a friend necessarily to JK, but, you know, not
secret friends.
Secret friends. I will say, though, she was the confessional girl for me this season.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I bring her back solely to do confessionals.
Yep. With hummus.
Hummus and cubes. And God, she is so entertaining.
Yeah.
If she is not on Titans 2, I'm going to be really upset. Are there other people from this cast that probably deserve that spot over her? Yes. Do I still want her on Titans 2? Yes.
Well, coming soon, we're going to get Titans every year.
Could you fucking imagine? Where they have to dig all the way back into, they run out of people to cast for Titans that they cast. I was gonna say Pinche, but I think it would be kind of iconic to have Pinche on, honestly.
The Pinche Lounge.
Yes. Yes. But I was gonna say they have to dig so far back. They have like Foxy Ajue, who actually another person I would like to return.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind.
I was gonna say that one, the masked one from season 2, because I don't like referring to her by name. But no, don't do that, please. Don't do that, please. Please don't. Anyway, Ork comes back in and makes out with Neo for an extended period of time, and I'm just like, no.
You know, everybody's kind of children about it. They're like, ew, kissing. It's like,
I didn't come to Dragula to see people make out.
I mean,
I came to Dragula to see the filth. Horror.
I mean, that's the filth.
It is pretty filthy. It is pretty horrifying. And there's no glamour.
Yeah, it would be really horrifying if Ork had the yellow teeth in. I don't get that aesthetic choice, but
I don't get the aesthetic choice of Neo having the red teeth.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's both of them. I don't get it. I really don't. I don't get a lot about Orkgotik. I'm going to be honest. I don't. I don't think it's for me to get, but whatever. So they're talking, and as per usual on this season, every opportunity they have to talk about who should go home and who doesn't deserve to be here anymore. Of course. And I will say there was a moment. So now it's the overall dynamic now is kind of Neo and Orc versus everyone else. Except it's still also Throb versus Fantasia. And also to an extent Throb versus Blackberri, because Throb can't go a single moment without shitting on a black drag artist.
I will say, in Throb's defense, Throb's very consistent with their reasoning. Throb wants to see people who live, eat, breathe, sleep, drag monster do well. And those are two people that are not conventional drag monsters. I think they've absolutely risen to the challenge.
In reference to Blackberri and Fantasia?
More so than some other people who've
and what was the reason for the JK hate? Hatred,
lack of polish. I don't know.
And I understand that. I'm going to counter your counter, because while I do get that, and I think there's definitely an element of that, I do agree with that to an extent. However, I feel like Throb's definition of drag monster is very narrow.
Yeah.
Based on what they've said and based on what we know of his drag, like that definition feels very narrow. And if you don't fit exactly 100% into that, then your drag shouldn't be showcased on this show. And that's kind of the vibe that I've gotten from Throb. And that's a lot of the reason why I've been very averse to Throb, is that while I understand the monster aesthetic and I get that that is ultimately part of what Dragula is, the emphasis there is on part of Dragula. And the overall concept of Dragula is to give alternative artists this opportunity. That's what the Boulets have said from the beginning. True. It inherently has started with horror, and it has started with the more spooky drag artists. But over time, that has evolved into, look at Fantasia. Look at Jade Jolie as a great example of that. Look at someone like Mary Cherry. Even look from season 1, look at Meatball. Like, I would not consider any of those queens to be inherently horror queens, and I would not consider any of them to be monsters. But do all 4 of them fit into the Dragula brand perfectly? Yes. More so than others. But I feel like all of them fit in because of the alternative way that they look at drag. Jade, I would say less so, because she's leaned into the Taylor Swift, and honestly, make your money. I support it. Make your money. She's hot right now. Do what you need to do. But it just comes down to how narrow Throb's definition of drag monster seems to be, in that Neo and Orc fit into that for him, but Blackberri and Fantasia don't, and Onyx didn't. I know he had a bit of an issue with Lily fighting. My ADHD is so bad today that I can't. Lily, what do you think about Throb Zombie? And what do you think about Fantasia, Royale, Gaga?
Oh,
I'm not turning away. No, Lily, how dare you? Oh wait, no, she's back.
Oh no, you're gonna mess up.
Oh no, Lily.
She just had to leap off of the actual laptop.
It happens.
But I do want to say, in counter, and you're making me defend Throb, which I don't like doing, because I think
countering my counter to your counter to my points.
Right, we're like D and Austin.
I'm D, obviously.
Not many people will get. Yep.
I'm D, obviously.
The way I see Throb, whether it's okay or not, I think their mentality is like any job. Like, if you have a job that you've been doing for a while, and then somebody else comes into that job and was like, oh, that's easy. I can do that. I have no experience in that, but I can do that. That's easy. It's very threatening. You get defensive. Sure. You're like, no, I've worked so hard to build up my reputation. I've worked so hard to build up my aesthetic and my fan base. And you're just coming in and saying, hey, this is easy. It's like on Drag Race. We get the same thing with the Instagram queens and the queens that have built their legacy by working in clubs or whatever, they feel threatened by that. They lash out at those. So I think that's just what we're seeing. And I'm not saying it's okay. I'm just saying I get where she's coming from, even if I don't agree. I thought they've done a great job. I don't think that they've shown that it's easy. I don't think they've shown that they're at the level that some other monsters throughout the various seasons are at. But it's a really good start. And honestly, like it's up to the Boulets. If the Boulets think that's valid, then they'll reward it. If they agree with you, Throb, they'll cut them.
Yeah.
So,
and to counter your counter to my counter to your counter to my point, why are we limiting drag? Why are we gatekeeping certain kinds of drag?
Fair.
Like that's where I come back to, is just like, do I understand Throb's points? Yes. Do I vehemently disagree with all of them? Yes. Because at the end of the day, it's like, I get feeling threatened and like working your entire drag career to go towards something. But also, other people should have the opportunity to explore in their own drag if they so choose. And yes, this is a competitive setting. So I understand that some people deal with competition differently. We can tell Throb doesn't deal with competition very well. Whatsoever.
No.
And it ultimately just comes down to, why are we gatekeeping certain kinds of drag? And ultimately, if they do it better than you, then maybe you should step your game up.
Yep.
So, anyway, I do want to say on that note as well, they're going back and forth and everyone's kind of like saying why everyone shouldn't be there anymore. And Fantasia gets into it with Ork over, well, attempts to, and then Ork kind of takes it in a different direction. But Fantasia's talking about how the materials that Ork uses are always the same, and that the aesthetic is always the same. And I think what Fantasia was trying to do, at least this was my perception, and I want to know if you had a different perception, David. My perception was that those were two different statements being made by Fantasia at the same time. And Ork took it from my perspective. Ork took that as, what I do, you don't respect. Because a couple people go back and forth with Ork about all of this. And Ork, the only thing Ork can come back with is, well, I use these materials and I am proud of using these materials, and that's what I do. And there's this felt like a one-sided argument in that I don't feel like Ork ever came back with anything solid in this argument. I just felt like all he was doing was deflecting. And like, also when we see Blackberri talking about Ork, the only thing, like, Ork couldn't defend any of these statements, and all he was doing was saying, but what about you? But what about your drag? But what about your aesthetic? And I'm like, no, what you need to be doing is defending your own shit. Why are you talking about, like, why aren't you answering the question directly? Why are you deflecting? Like, that frustrated me.
Yeah.
And twofold in that, when there needed to be a definite argument on their side, I thought Neo came in, and as much as I love Blackberri, I love Blackberri. Blackberri's my pick to win, spoiler. Neo kind of clears Blackberri in this moment a little bit by going, well, if you take Blackberri out of your garments, if you take yourself out of the garment, I don't see that garment as Blackberri. And to an extent, I get that.
Mm-hmm.
I think the thing for me is just Blackberri has a wider scope of drag that they do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's maybe why that
yeah.
happens.
And that makes sense coming from kind of that cosplay area. Like it makes more sense that you're going to have a range. But when you have such a range, it's hard to have a specific identity. And
Yeah.
really, it almost feels like we have all of the contestants falling on some sort of level there. And maybe they feel like the other side is a bit invalidated. Personally, I like when people have a very clear aesthetic and a brand, and they show that with a bit of range within that. When it's like so across the board, it's hard to really know who they are.
Mm-hmm.
With that said, I do think Fantasia and Blackberry have shown a very wide range,
Yeah.
but I still enjoy it and it still seems to fit who they are. So
Yeah.
I think it's all valid. And I honestly, I like this top 5 a lot. I know not everybody who's been on the panel this season does, but I think they're all really strong in their own ways.
I think as far as the drag that we've been presented with this top 5, it's great drag.
Mhm.
Do I like all of these people as TV characters? Absolutely not.
That's very fair.
But have I been impressed by everyone in this top 5 by their drag at certain moments? Absolutely.
Mhm.
There have been a lot of shining drag moments. And unfortunately, I feel like a lot of those drag moments are kind of dragged, pun intended, dragged down by all of the drama and all of the bullshit that we've kind of had to wade through to get to the drag.
Mhm.
It's like the people I don't care anything about. The drag I care about, and I do think a lot of the drag we've seen has been fantastic. But yeah, I get both sides of it. Where you like a more like clear aesthetic and character, I do like seeing a wide variety of things from
Mhm.
different drag artists because it shows me that your imagination goes in a lot of different places, and you can pull from a lot of
Branding.
Branding. If you know, you know. If you know, you know. We've got stuff regarding that season coming in the new
Ooh.
year. So if you know, you know. But I like seeing a wider variety because I'm like, oh, I love seeing where this person goes with this, and this reference. And when given this challenge, how are they going to tackle it? It always leaves me surprised and it leaves me wanting to know more. Whereas, like, and I'll say it with Neo and Orc, I'm not always I'm not always looking forward to what they do on the floor show because I know I have a baseline for what they're going to do. And I would say, I wouldn't even say Neo and Orc. I would say Throb and Orc. I feel have a little bit more of like, I know for the most part what they're going to do in a floor show. Neo, I'm surprised by every time I see. Blackberry, I'm surprised by every time I see. Fantasia, I'm surprised by every time I see. And I like that factor. But I get where you're coming from with having a more like defined character and aesthetic. It's just it's a little too wide and it's also a little too narrow, and that's why this top 5 is so interesting for me.
Yeah.
But
it's very interesting.
We spent 22 damn minutes and we haven't even gotten to
we can just dissect this whole group.
Because
I have a lot
honestly
of thoughts.
could. We could. But we find out that our floor show challenge this week is to create your own drag kaiju, which I'm honestly kind of surprised we haven't had this challenge already. I was like, well, certainly they've done a kaiju. No. Oh, okay. I was very thrilled. I was very thrilled. And also, I was like, well, this is a challenge I feel like is maybe set up for 2 specific people on this cast to succeed.
Honestly, though, like I get your point, but I think that this is something where I would like to see it in other seasons as well. Like if it was like a staple every season, I wouldn't be too mad. At least not at first. We would see how it goes.
If the staples were Monsters of Rock mid-season and kaiju like right before the finale, I think that would be a really fun way to kind of incorporate things. I definitely agree with you with that.
My thing though with like a lot of the themes this season is like, especially listening to the podcast that the Boulets do after each episode, they have such specific ideas of what they want for each theme. And it's kind of annoying, honestly, because they're always disappointed that people aren't doing exactly how they envisioned it.
Well,
And
and also to that point, I don't feel like they're explaining exactly what they want.
right. I mean, it's hard to know. Like, we don't see the briefs that the contestants get. Like,
Yeah.
did it really say it has to be 80s? It has to be in a haunted
Did it
house.
really say that it couldn't be humanoid this week?
Right.
Like, that's where I'm like, because there are some kaijus that are a little bit more humanoid.
Right.
And so it's like, that's where, and especially this week, I was frustrated with the judging
Hmm.
because it just felt like they said, oh, this person is the most monster, they win.
Yeah,
Whereas I
I could
don't
see that.
think that person should have won. But we'll talk about it. We also find out that the fright feat, it's nothing. It's nothing competitive. We're just going to a what is it called? Um,
A
oh no,
room.
yeah, it's not panic room.
A smash everything room.
Yes, but what is the term for it?
A bang, bang, crush,
Bang bang
smash.
into the room.
Yes. Room.
Into. I'm literally.
An Eva destruction room.
Rage room.
A rage room.
Oh, I just found out there's a rage room in the city I live in. That's very good knowledge to know.
I think we have one here, but it's not my my thing.
Oh, I feel like I would thrive in that environment. Like I would just be like, because I hold in a lot of anger. I let some of it go, but I hold in a lot of like anger and emotion. So I feel like that would be like very good for me. But we're going to a rage room and you just get to destroy shit. There were 3 moments for me that stood out in this. And that was Blackberri singing her verse, "Come on, Mama Swan, give me the crown." Which
just Mama Swan.
Just Mama Swan. Drac, fuck you. But she said on Twitter that apparently Angeria Paris Van Michaels asked her about that and like what the origin was of it. And apparently Blackberri was convinced that the Monsters of Rock challenge this season was going to be some sort of like making a verse a la Drag Race. So she had an entire verse already written, and part of it was "Come on, Mama Swan, give me the crown."
That's funny.
Which I think is so funny because she's put it in at like a couple different moments this season, and I'm like, that's kind of stupid, but I'm here for it.
I mean, she wasn't so off from it going more Drag Race in the competition this year. But also on the podcast, Drac was like, I guess I'm giving the scepter.
I guess. Is that the distinction now? Drac gets the scepter. Or no, Drac's the one dropping the blood.
There we go.
Sure, we'll go with that. But so there was that. There was just Fantasia. Because I just want to Fantasia and just like and just her tits bouncing every time she smashed something. I'm just like, I'm so entertained. I'm so genuine. And then the part that interested me is we see Blackberri going, I'm going to show the judges exactly who Blackberri is. Smash. And Throb follows that with, I know exactly who Blackberri is. Smash, smash, smash. And I'm like, now I'm not going to sit here and speak on the Black experience. I'm not going to do that. I never have. I never will. Hi, not Black. It felt real microaggressive to be watching it. That might just be me. And that might, because I will say I am slightly biased against Throb. I will say that based on the actions of this season and based on things people have said online about Throb, there is a bias here. So that very well might be part of it. But I was like, what? Why? You could have just said, I'm going to show the judges who Throb is. I'm going to win the crown. I'm going to eliminate all of you. No. No, we're not going to do that? Okay.
By the way, Logan, this is off off topic,
Uh-huh.
but you have been so close a couple times to putting on that blonde wig above you, and I'm just waiting for the moment where you just line up perfectly with it. There we go. Ooh,
Oh,
this
how
is
pretty.
pretty. This is beautiful. I love
Thank
it.
you. I'm not gonna hold my computer there the whole time, but I might
Okay.
just.
I just
I have
needed
to
it
I
for a
have to
second.
lift myself off the chair in order to wear the wig.
It's almost as iconic as the painting
I
in
know,
Lana's
I love
background.
that. Oh, it was so good.
But yes,
No,
Throb kind of sucks.
the vagina papaya behind me is
There we
wearing it
go.
right now, so that's okay. Yeah, Throb kind of sucks. Anyway, we go back to the long table room and they're making their stuff, and then there's this whole love story fucking segment between Orc and Neo, and I fast forwarded through the whole thing.
Oh, you know, I'm kind of rooting for them. It seems like they're still taking pictures together, and I don't know.
I
I don't know
hope
the
that
state of
they're
their.
well. I saw on Reddit, Orc. I haven't seen it from Orc directly. Apparently, Orc has to leave the U.S. in December, like by the end of the year.
Visa's up.
Yeah, and apparently he's going to Europe, so that's
Okay.
lovely. Good for you. But yeah, okay. Here's the thing: as people, I hope Neo and Orc are like happy and in a relationship, whatever. I didn't come to Dragula to see people making out. I came to Dragula to see the filth, the horror. I don't need love. We saw enough of that on fucking Titans. I don't need it anymore. I'm fine.
Prefer this, to be honest.
I also prefer this, but I have had enough. Anyway.
We also learned Blackberri did puppets.
Why the fuck are we just now learning this? That's what this fucking season, I'm just like, why are we not learning about the people?
I know.
Oh, yeah,
I want to know more.
Oh, yeah, because the JK drama took up 6 fucking episodes of television.
And
that's
they cut
why
some of that too. They cut the worst of it, apparently.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Not good, but you know.
Not good.
I do also love that, and we've said it throughout the season, but now every time we get the alarm going off, they're just crazier. It's just like this time you had Fantasia rolling onto the table. Yeah, literally. I'm what? Neo dragging Throb out of the room. Blackberry's going up to the camera just like, ah! It's so good. It's so good. I'm like, thank you for if nothing else, this season has brought camp back to Dragula, and I'm thankful for that, honestly.
Yeah. It's becoming a parody of itself at this point.
It really is, and I honestly appreciate it. Because I would rather have that than not trying.
Right.
But
attention competitors. Attention competitors. The floor show is about to begin.
God, I love Fantasia Royale Gaga so much.
She's great.
I'm so sad. We'll talk about it. I'm gonna be so sad. The depression is real. But we have our judges. I didn't know who either of these people were. And this
you don't
Jorts.
You don't know Silent Bob?
No.
Oh.
No, I'm not familiar.
Well, Kevin Smith is very famous. Very famous.
I understand that. I understand. And I know that that's a thing. I'm just not familiar myself. But
I will say people throw around a certain term way too much. Way too much.
Oh.
But in this instance, this one here, that's a Nepo baby. That is a Nepo baby.
Yeah. I was like, who is this bitch? And then she was like, Dad. I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense now. Okay, work. Like, good for you, girl. She's stunning.
She is, but she brought nothing.
I love the pantsuit, but like,
she brought nothing at all.
Not a goddamn thing. I will say, I really like this look on the Boulets. I had an issue with the fabric that the garments are made out of because it on TV it looks just a scotch cheap.
Yeah.
In person it probably looks lovely, but on camera it looked just a scotch cheap. So that was really the only issue I had with that. But
fair.
The Boulets, I mean, Boulet fashion this season has been overall like pretty good. I liked the lime green disasters. The internet does not like the lime green disasters with the hat.
I really like those.
I did too, and apparently the internet, the internet hates them, and I'm just like, I don't get it, but okay, work.
It kind of reminded me like roses. I get it.
A little. We're all still trying to find out what the headpieces were. I don't know what they are, but floor show, humongous horrors, drag, kaiju, all that lovely, beautiful, loveliness. And first up, Throb Zombie.
I actually think this look is pretty incredible. It feels very Throb, and I feel like Throb is like his own monster. So I really like this. And I think the tail was my favorite part because I didn't see that coming. It was like, oh, it's almost bat-ish. But then when he turned around and you saw that tail, I was like, wow, this is incredible. I really think this is one of my favorite looks of the whole season. He just nailed it to me. And I was so certain watching the whole episode. I'm going to spoil this now. I was like, okay, we know Throb's winning the challenge. Throb won this challenge, clearly.
Agreed.
Just because like I just thought this like checked every box for what the challenge was requesting personally, without Throb like being disingenuous to himself. So I love it. I love it.
I absolutely agree with you. Throb was my winner. As much as I may not enjoy Throb, the character on this show, this was fantastic for me. This is one of the best looks of the season for me, to be honest. I thought everything that he did in the floor show, in this, this looks professionally made. And I'm like, I'm so impressed with that. And it's just the fact that, we'll talk about it, but the fact that he was up for Extermination for this is bullshit. Quite honestly.
It's crazy.
They could have picked the bottom two and it would have been easy. But the whole episode, we were going by this narrative of, oh my God, 2 people are going home. Oh my God, top 3. Bullshit, Boulets. Just say top 4 from now on. You haven't done a top 3 since season 2.
There wasn't a top 3 in season 3? Okay, I was about to say.
I forget season 3 existed. Except for like Madeline Hatter.
It was like Landon, Dahlia, Priscilla. Who was
That's it? It should have been Louisiana Purchase. I am a Louisiana Purchase lover.
I'm not, but that's okay.
I know her partner, so that's why I'm like, right. I love Louisiana. Anyway, Throb was fantastic. Yeah. Point blank in the period, Throb was fantastic. Like, I don't even know what the fuck this character is, and I don't want to know because I'm just terrified by it.
I can't believe Throb is going into this finale with 1 win.
We'll talk about track records because it's kind of stupid.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there are only 8 competitive episodes, and I think that's why.
True. And they really got out the wins early on.
There's 6 people have wins out of this cast. But we'll talk. I have that. I have a whole segment on that later when we find out who the actual top 3, quote unquote, are. Anyway, your score, David.
97.
I'm going to match that for sure. This is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, Niohuru X.
I like this. So first of all, as much as I love Fantasia, I think Neo definitely showed us how to do a tail.
Fantasia is my mother, but Neo outtailed her, like for sure.
Yeah. I just I could not stop looking at the tail, especially during the judging. Like there's so much detail to it. I'm like, how did you all pack all this stuff?
She lives in LA.
True.
So
that's true.
That's probably why.
I actually thought Neo was going to win based on the critiques they were giving out, because I'm like, wow, they're really high on this. I had issues with it personally. I didn't love the fur on the arms. It reminded me of like a cheap gorilla costume. And I'm not used to Neo looking cheap. And that kind of brought down the look for me. Also, while I do like the face actually is probably the most kaiju of any of them.
Agreed.
Like if you watch, I've watched a few of them recently, rewatched some old kaiju movies, and they have like this specific like face that looks very like, I don't know, like fake.
Yes, it's like reptile, but also bird in a weird way.
Yeah.
Like that was what I was expecting from most people in this challenge, was kind of this like reptilian bird like insect sort of thing. And some people did that for sure.
Yeah. But it's so specific to like these like small clay creatures that they've created.
Yeah.
And they're trying to make them look bigger. So like that face just really feels like this face. My problem with that face though is I can't get expression from it. It was too masky for me. So I get that they didn't want to see human from their characters, but I needed to see expression at least. And I lost that completely from Neo. So I was actually kind of disappointed with this overall. And I was surprised they weren't a little more critical of her this week.
Yeah, I mean, I share a lot of your criticisms for sure. I think because is it a prosthetic or is it a mask? Like, I can't tell. I mean, I guess
It
that's
looks like a mask though. Even if it is a prosthetic, it becomes too
I think
masky.
Is a prosthetic. I wish the prosthetic was a little bit more exaggerated in places and then less exaggerated, because I agree with you. I would have liked to see some expression. I will say though, with lack of facial expression, I do think she did a really good job of conveying physical, like the physicality of this character. Because I mean, there's not much you can do with that tail, but what she did do was very serpentine. It was very monster. And so I thought that brought that up at least a little bit. I agree with you about the fur, like gorilla arm situation. The part I have more of a difficulty with is the fact that just her stomach is exposed. Like, I noticed that on the floor show, and I was like, I don't know that I love that effect, because and obviously with the way that they did the floor show, it wasn't going to be as noticeable. But I'm like, I want a little bit, like, I want it to be a full character, and that actually brings it more back into humanoid for me a little bit. Which again, I personally don't have an issue with a humanoid kaiju character, because there are a lot of kaijus that do lean a little bit more humanoid. Right. Mothra is a great example, and we'll talk more about that later. But I thought what she did was good. If there was a bottom two and only a bottom two in this episode, I don't know that she would have landed in my bottom two, based on the sheer detail in the tail and the execution of the detail.
She puts the tail in detail.
And she puts no expression in her face. Well, that's also just a kind of a Neo issue in general. But scores.
I still gave it an 83.
I'm going to give her an 86. My mother, Fantasia, Royale, Gaga. This is giving Spider Bit by Ronald McDonald.
So I actually really like this.
I like it too. For me personally, this was my least favorite of the week, but I do still like it.
It wasn't my least favorite. It was not my least favorite. Yeah.
Actually, no, that's actually a bold-faced lie. I don't agree with that. What I just said.
Okay.
Go ahead, David.
I can't wait to find out who is. But yeah, when I first saw this and she spread her arms and all of those arms went with it, we've seen things like that before where like different arms are connected, but I thought the effect on this one worked better than it usually does. I didn't like that I could see the strings, but I don't think there's much getting away from that. But I think this is a great like monster. It reminds like I watched this year a movie with like giant ants that were like killing people, and it was an American movie. But like I see like a giant killer bug from this. Like it works for me. I like the color combination together. I didn't even notice that she was painted red at first. Like it took a while for me to like catch that part. My only thing is like it felt a little clean. Especially since it's like this latex look, and it's so like I don't know. I just wanted it to be a bit dingier, a little dirty. And she does remind me of a wrestler, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like I think it works as that kind of a look, but that's not what they wanted. But I still liked it.
I think ultimately what Fantasia's critiques came down to in the episode, it came down to they didn't want humanoid, and while they did convey that, I don't know if they conveyed that originally,
right,
when they were all given the challenges.
Exactly.
And so I think as a standalone character, I think this is fun. I actually had the same critique of this look that the Boulets did, in that the face loses me, because the face takes it full humanoid.
Mm-hmm.
I want like bug humanoid. I don't want humanoid bug, if that makes sense. And I wanted bug humanoid. This gave me humanoid bug wrestler,
right?
Lucha Libre. But like, do I like this look as a whole? Yes, I actually think this is one of the more unique things that Fantasia brought to the season. I do enjoy it. The color palette for me it gives ketchup and mustard for me. And I kind of would have loved if she had leaned into that, and that was like part of it. Would have been dumb and camp, and I don't think Fantasia would have done it. But like, oh, she's destroying the city with ketchup and mustard. Like, I think that would have been so dumb. But it might have added to it. I don't know. It just we'll talk about it more. I'm upset. Scores.
I'm giving her an 88.
I'm gonna give her a 90.
Ooh.
So next up is Orkgotik.
So there's a lot of good things here. Like I feel like this feels like the most creature of any of them.
Yes.
Which is very fitting for Ork, because Ork, like we talked about in the cast assessment, that Ork like defies like gender as their character. They are a creature. They are a monster. So this was Ork's challenge to lose. And I thought Ork did a great job with like performing. Like I was getting like very Godzilla type of movement from him. And it's a very strong look. I did have issues with it personally. I felt like there were parts of it that looked like it was near like falling apart. But really my biggest issue, and I had that same issue with Neo, but it's even more prevalent here, is I lose the face completely. So I got like zero expression from Ork in the face, and I want to see a face. Even if it's a complete monstrous face, I want to see that there is a face. And even looking at this now, I can't like, are those eyes? I can't tell. I cannot tell that there's a face. So that was my issue, and I would not have given Ork the win. And this is coming from somebody who really likes Ork this season.
Well, as someone who hates Ork, no, I'm kidding. I agree. If the Boulets wanted who is the least humanoid, if that's the challenge, Ork wins. And that seems to be the way they judged it. Okay, whatever. I also would have had this in my bottom. It would have been Neo and Ork for me. And I agree with what you were saying about the losing expression. I understand that these are the materials that he uses. And I understand that he's a very specific and very narrow aesthetic. But everything he's presented is either red, white, black, or brown. I need something different. This bored me. This should not bore me. But it did. Because he walked out on the floor show and I said, yep, that's exactly what I expected. And it's just like, I'm frustrated. I want to see something different. And I'm not seeing anything. It's different facets of the same character, sure. And do I respect that? Absolutely. Me personally, I want to see something different. I want to be surprised. And this didn't surprise me. So, is it still very well executed? Absolutely. Could I make this myself? Absolutely not.
Okay, I was about to say, I thought you were going to say absolutely.
I could probably make a good portion of this, I'm going to be honest, with just the skills that I have personally. I could probably make a bunch of this, but I couldn't make it to the level of execution he has. Right. But I just I wanted this to be something different for him, and I wanted to see a different side of Orc we haven't seen. And I don't know if he has that complexity there. It is. That's what it comes down to for me. Scores.
I gave it an 80.
I'm going to give it a 79. And last up, Blackberri.
Well, this was a look I got spoiled on Twitter. I saw I saw a picture with Blackberri on one side of the stage and somebody else on the other side of the stage, and a tweet said like, "This is the second time this has happened this season," and so I thought for sure it was another lip sync. And I'm like, wait, Blackberri's lip syncing in this? Like when I actually watched the episode, I'm like, I all I know is whatever Blackberri is wearing is really good, and I still think so. I really like this. I get what the Boulets are saying. Like, yeah, it's a humanoid for sure, but it just looks so good to me. Like, I was kind of blown away. This is probably my favorite thing Blackberri's worn all season. Yeah, it's very polished. It's very polished and pretty, and maybe that's part of the issue here, but I don't know. Like this is where I'm really seeing like Blackberri has just stepped up to the plate with these challenges, and it's so impressive to me. The only thing I'm not crazy about is this specific wig. It didn't work for me, but everything else, I thought this was great.
I wish the wig was an updo.
Yeah,
like I don't, because I think that would give it a little bit more bug to the whole effect. Because if it was just going up and out, I think would have made it a little bit. I wish the wig was just the antenna.
Yeah,
like it was just thicker antenna, but it was all made of like hair. I think that would have
right.
But I'm sitting here. I watched this episode 3 days ago, and I'm still mad. Because this look deserved more praise than it got. This is fucking incredible. And for me, where Fantasia was more humanoid bug, this, for me, is more bug humanoid. Like, that's where, like, this is very clearly a bug that's also a little bit humanoid. Like, the focus is bug. And that's what I got from this. It feels very Mothra, which, is literally what y'all fucking assigned them. But okay, Boulets. Go off, Boulets. I thought it was so well executed. I thought the makeup here was so stunning. The overall execution of this is gorgeous. I think her floor show could have been a little bit stronger, the performance itself. I wish she had done something with like knocking. Exactly. It's like I wish she had done something with like knocking the blocks down with her wings, or like doing something along those lines. And just I wanted a bit more physicality into the performance of it.
But Mothra is such a nicey cutie that it makes
Exactly.
sense.
Exactly. But yeah, this scores.
It's getting a 93 from me.
I'm gonna give it a 95. So we get our critiques, and we find out that the winner of the the drag kaiju challenge is Orkgotik.
Yep. They really just didn't to see the drag part. And I really think it should have been like a combination, like drag kaiju, instead of just straight up kaiju costume, you know? But good for Ork.
Whatever. And everyone else is up for extermination.
Okay.
And this is back where I'm like, ah, shit. It's a double elimination. I'm like, ah, fuck. In my mind, I was like, yeah, Blackberri and Fantasia are going home.
They seem like the logical choices based on how the season has gone so far. But I was not counting out Blackberri. I was like,
I wasn't
get
counting
an
out
upset.
Blackberri either, but I'm just like, ugh, whatever. But for the extermination this week, we are pole fighting. Fight head to head to knock each other down using pugil sticks. That is the description that was given. And of course, we have to, of course, have the two pairs be, of course, the people that had the most drama with each other. So, of course, it's going to be Throb and Fantasia. And, of course, it's going to be Neo and Blackberri.
Yep.
This was... whatever. This was like when they did the fucking mud wrestling extermination on season 1. Like, that's what it felt like for me. I'm just like...
At least I gave some really good TV with Melissa.
Yeah.
Going hard.
Yeah. This did nothing for me, if I'm going to be honest. This did absolutely nothing.
And I didn't even believe it. Sometimes there was like, especially when it showed Neo like just pounding Blackberri as she's like face down. I was like, did people tell Blackberri to like pretend like you're getting beat up, so we have something to make it look close?
Whatever. I'm so over this season. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm just so over this season. Like, this season more than any other Dragula season feels so produced.
Mm-hmm.
And just inauthentic might be the word. I don't want to go that far yet.
Yeah.
I'm going to be very honest, and I think he's done a great job throughout this competition. If Ork wins, it's going to feel like, for me, the most inauthentic season. Because I think there are several moments where Ork could have been exterminated.
Well, I don't agree with that.
I don't think his package is as strong as everybody else in the top 4. That's just me personally. But we get our exterminated monster. I fully was like, well, there goes Blackberri. Blackberri's gone. Goodbye, Blackberri. And it's not. And I was equally devastated to see Fantasia exterminated. And it's really interesting because, and I can now say this, the preseason tea was that Fantasia made top 3.
Yeah, my roommate was like, spoilers were wrong because Ork wasn't supposed to make the finale.
Ork wasn't supposed to make it this far at all. I thought this extermination was cute. And I think this is some of the best acting in an extermination we saw all year. So she's in a poison chamber. You have an unreasonable 60 seconds to find the key. Okay, Boulets, whatever. I was like, oh God, she has to dig through all the needles. No. So even if she
Very
did
Saw
get out,
too.
which she's not going. This is literally ripped out of Saw. Like, you could not tell me that this wasn't directly ripped off of like 3 different Saw movies.
Right.
And I was like, oh no, not the needles. Like, even if she does survive, she's not going to, but even if she does survive, like, tetanus, all the diseases, like, oh God, no, don't do that to Fantasia. And then she finds something in the other room. And just the way she backs against the door and just, like the screaming, I was like, come on, actress. Like,
Yeah.
but,
It was so, like, she belongs in the next Scary Movie if they ever make one again.
really, honestly, she is the perfect fit for Scary Movie. You are
She's Brenda's
so
cousin.
And if they kill her off first, I would be so mad.
No.
Well, she is black and a woman, so you never know. But
True.
But
I will.
But
I do want to say, like, so for me going into this episode, Fantasia was the person for me that seemed like the clear 5th place, and who honestly I was hoping would be eliminated, because I've really liked the other 4 throughout the season, at least what they're bringing as far as drag. I like what Fantasia brings too. I don't know if it's quite to the standard that I expect from Dragula, but I have been very impressed with her overall, especially when we went through her Instagram before the season started, and I'm like, this isn't Dragula at all.
yeah.
So I was very intrigued to see how she would adapt.
Yeah.
And I thought she did a very, very, very strong job overall. And she was such a delight as far as her character goes. Like, she never felt mean-spirited. And with this cast, that was kind of a
Very
rarity.
difficult to do.
Yeah.
Seeing as how 3 of the top 4 have been presented to us as mean-spirited, at least in one scenario.
True. I mean, I would say all 4 have it at some point, to varying degrees.
I forgot about the Blackberri and Anna situation. Yeah, I would agree with that then. Yeah.
So I did not know Fantasia before this, and I'm very happy to know her now. And I can't wait to see what she does, whether it's Drag Monster or whether it's more true to what her aesthetic has been in the past.
I think she's
both
just gone back to showgirl.
You know,
I mean,
and you kill it, girl. You're so good at that. So
I will say, as someone who was familiar with Fantasia prior to Dragula, I was gooped and gagged to see her on this cast, and I am so happy that she was a part of this season. She brought such levity to the whole season. She brought me so much entertainment value, so many emotional moments, like just hearing about her story, getting to know her as a human as well as this fabulous drag entertainer has just been an absolute joy. I really do, in my heart of hearts, wish we would have been able to see her in a finale scenario, because I really wanted to see what she would do, especially with Filth. I would have loved to see her final 4 shows, but
I want to find out.
She is joining the pantheon of robbed 5th place goddesses amongst several other people across drag franchises. And thank you, Fantasia, for providing 2 big, fantastic high points to the season. And your tits. Mostly the tits. And the floundering around in the steel bathtub during the extermination with Jay.
Is it bad that I really want to see Fantasia on an airplane? I want to know how it works.
Comfort Plus. At the very least.
Plus, girl.
Oh, shut up.
That's all like respect for what she's had done, because it's incredible.
Yeah. So we were left off with this idea that someone else was being exterminated and that it was going to be a top 3. But we have since learned via the Boulets podcast that it is a top 4 this season, even though they said they would never do a top 4 again.
Rules are made to be broken.
I personally am very thrilled because Blackberri made the finale.
Yes, I was about to say, if anybody should be happy that they lied.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Yes, Blackberri.
We got the nicest beauty with a
Blackberri. Blackberri. I'm so happy. And the other 3 are there. No, I'm happy for Neo. We all knew Neo was going to be in the finale. At the very least, we all knew Neo would be there. But top 4, we have 3 weeks to wait until the reunion. And we have a month until we crown a winner. And at that point, I'm going to be honest, y'all, I'm not going to give a single fuck. I'm really not going to care. We're going to cover the finale. We'll be here, but
well, maybe I'll win a draft for once.
This draft?
Maybe.
I haven't done any of the drafts.
I mean, I have one person in the finale and one person who got cut last week, so
Cynthia and
Orkgotik.
I don't know.
Neither.
But speaking of our top 4, it's actually incredibly interesting looking at their overall track records because we have Neo and Ork are the only people with 2 challenge wins, but they also both have 2 exterminations. And then you have Throb and Blackberri, who each have 1 challenge win, and we're up for extermination for the first time in this episode. So there are a lot of parallels there. I genuinely want to think in my heart of hearts that any of these 4 entertainers could win. If I'm being a little bit more realistic, just based on the way the Boulets have talked about and critiqued Blackberri, I just don't know that there is a shot for Blackberri to win. And in saying that, Blackberri is my winner pick. I want Blackberri to win. I think Blackberri has shown the most consistency out of the top 4 this season. And people probably may not agree with that. But there has not been a bad Blackberri look this season, in my opinion. So, for me, my winner would be Blackberri.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Personally, I struggle to think of a bad look any of these have had. But
I don't struggle, but I understand where your struggle comes from.
For me, if I'm going off of who has like wowed me the most throughout the season with looks, it'd probably be Neo. I think there's been some like incredible looks, but I really do think anybody could win this. I really would not be surprised if it comes down to the final floor show and how people represent the 3 categories of Dragula, because I think it's very, very even. And I cannot wait to see Ork do glamour. Cannot wait to see it.
If it's a fucking latex bodysuit and these not Club Kid but Club Kid boots, I'm gonna scream, cry, and throw up. I'm gonna scream, cry, throw up, shut my laptop, move to Latvia, and never think about this show again. But it's probably gonna be. I'm not gonna do any of that stuff for real, but
you've committed to it.
Nope. No, thank you. No, thank you. And on that note, thank you for joining us for our episode 8 recap of Dragula season 5. Let us know in the comments down below, who was your favorite? Who would you have exterminated this episode? Are you also as enamored by Fantasia's tits as we are? Make sure to hit all the buttons, like, share, do all those things. It does mean the world to us. If you want to tip us as well, there is the YouTube thanks button right next to the like, basically. So if you want to send us some financial support, we greatly appreciate it. And all of that money goes right back into this very podcast. Make sure to follow us on our socials at The Cut Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. You could go follow David and I as well. Our links will be in the description below. And if you scroll a little bit further down, you could go get your merch, including but not limited to the Cut mug. And on that note, we're going to get out of here. Cheers.
Cheers.
Feels.
Oh. Bye.